Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas.
Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I host an episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select Resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. Our guest this week is Frank Papsø. Frank is a partner at Data Discovery Lab in Copenhagen, Denmark. He previously held positions at I'll see how many of these names I can pronounce properly. Frank can correct me. Danske Bank, Experian, I can get that. Ramboll Informatic, Capgemini, Nokia, and IBM. Frank, welcome.
Thanks a lot, George. And I think you got the name pretty good.
Good. Now we need to get you up on the screen, but our producer has been trying to juggle things because there's also another conference going on, an online conference that she's helping out with. But Frank, welcome. I'd like to start out today first talking about you and your organization, your story, where you came from and what you do.
Yes, pretty young in this area. We haven't been, in the e-discovery, and that's primarily because the Nordic or North Europe and South Europe, we don't have the same requirement from laws to processing all digital data. We don't have that practice yet. Of course, that will be put in place, is my best guess, within 3 to 4 years from now. So, for us, it was more to be prepared, but also to join in and get our fingers into both e-discovery, but also the unstructured data. So that was a reason for us to start figuring out, how this world works, and also to address some of the major issues with the law firms in the Nordics and North Europe, as they are all today driven pretty manual, and we want to tip into that digitalization. So that was the reason, and also the reason behind the name Data Discovery Lab. So what we basically want to is deal with data because we just love that. We cannot get enough out of data. And then discovery because whatever you want to discover in the data, we can help with that. And then the laboratory of that was more in the concept of, if you and I want or need a blood test, we go to the doctor and they will cross off something and then we'll get the result back. And we thought, hey, why not do the same? Why don't ask the people, companies or lawyers, if they have problems, dump your data here and we'll sort it for you and we'll come back with the result. And that was the idea with the laboratory.
So I'd like to start with the discovery part and then move on to the lab part. So I am less familiar with the legal system in Denmark, certainly. I've had some experience with the legal systems in France, Germany, and some of the other non-common law countries. And know, for example, from spending time in the Netherlands, that folks on the continent, by and large, look at what we do with litigation in the United States, shake their heads and think we are crazy, insane to approach things the way we do. There aren't the same requirements or expectations, however you look at it, I think, in Europe, as there are in the United States, that when you get into litigation, People like us can start getting people's data and digging through a lot of data. But first of all, is that assessment correct? It's a much narrower scope.
Yes, it is. It is, and there's a lot of restriction around the GDPR, and also these days around actually cloud services. So I think when it comes, I think you're right. I think we're not shaking our heads because we think you're doing wrong things. We're more like, oh, that's really wide. You can do that. Can you really get these amount of data, and can you really dig into it? And can a third person do that? And can you just throw it into the cloud? And so I think there's two reasons for that. One is that we're more skeptical. We protect people's private data more. That's one thing. And the other thing is that you're just 10 years ahead of us on that one, and we'll pick up in 3 years. I normally say that because we believe we're clever. But I think you did a lot of learning. We would probably just piggyback on and then pick up faster.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes time for legal systems. Yeah, I'm getting feedback here, I think, but it takes time for legal systems to change, but practices can change more quickly. So I don't expect the legal systems in 3 years will have changed when it comes to litigation. However, you also, just as we do, need to work with investigations. And I don't know if the parameters are broader when it comes to investigations than lawsuits, or if you've got all of the same sort of restrictions.
I don't know. I think we're more limited. So our scope is narrow, and we will not expect the whole system to change within a few years. We will expect attention to this area, and then with that attention come more usage of digital forensics and these kind of things. But honestly, I think we see already in the ML area that the police are using a lot of these tools to investigate huge amount of data, and we actually see the bigger cases today. We see the big, the big four companies are heavily involved in processing those amount of data. So the understanding that I buy in that the scope is more narrowed, and the government body will not change rapidly, but the need from, you can say, the bottom up basically says that, hey, let's investigate more. And especially the clients to the lawyers, they would say, hey, we need to go deeper into this. We cannot wait, which is also a pressure these days, because a company where you see issues and they need to act fast, they cannot wait for 10 people to trawl through paper and print out papers. They need immediately answers, and that window is narrowed down to maybe half year down to now months, and in a year or two it will be weeks. So we will definitely see that also driving the change here in North Europe.
So that all takes us back to your lab and what you've been doing with that. Talk about that a bit, what you're building.
Yeah, so now we're building a big, I would say, laboratory where we have, I normally say we have more than 30 different algorithms waiting for attacking, the data and figure out what's in here. And so in the laboratory is basically built to be ready when data comes, and then it immediately start doing the investigation in the data. And it has the processing of Reveal in there, where we have processing if we want to go to the processing, but the driver in the laboratory is actually the Reveal AI, the next LP, because in there we have of course a library of models, but we have our own models developed. We have all kind of graphic views. So so all those pre-built and our own models are waiting for data to come and arrive, and when they arrive, they immediately just start. And then we basically don't look at it before we go to the to a meeting. We call it get to the point meeting with the client and the lawyer, and there we just literally open them up and say, okay, so this is what you're looking after. And that's pretty funny, because then everybody's just, whoa, you can do that kind of thing. So that's two really significant elements in there. And then we use Brainspace at the front end. So because it's so intuitive and lawyers can just jump on it. They need a couple of training rounds and then they are off to go. And I don't think I defend any lawyers if I say they're not mathematic people. They are more in the big picture kind of thing. So Brainspace for them is nice because it's intuitive. They like it. They like the look and feel, and they can do small things, and they find pretty fast some evidence. And then if it is more, if they need more, which they normally do, they come back. But it's actually where we just build their laboratory to them, and that's I guess also the fourth part of the laboratory is when they you have the data discovery lab, and many people use them for a project here and there. But then the big ones, they have their own laboratory, and in that laboratory they're building their own models, and that stays within their laboratory. So we're not sharing law firm A with law firm B's model. We don't do that, but they have their own models, and we train them for them, meaning that they are also generating IP on clients' data coming in, which is good because then they get something out of it. So that's the laboratory concept of it.
So let's step through an example here, so that you get engaged, you get some data. I assume that you then ingest that data, process it. What happens next?
Then we get to a point meeting. Get to the point, we call it. You guys call it the early case assessment. We just call it get to the point because we have to invent something ourselves. So we get to the point. In that point meeting, we have the lawyers. Sometimes we have the client. It doesn't matter. We go on the screen together, or we sit physically, and then the instruction that they sent to us before we started anything, also before we started collecting data, then we go through those instructions. We highlight what they have pointed at as search terms and phrases they want to investigate. And the good thing is that the tools are doing so great job for us, so we find other things which is maybe also relevant, more relevant or less relevant. Those things we also run through. Then when that's done, everybody receives an email, everybody who's involved in the case. And they receive an email where they have notice books. In those we have all the relevant documents, and they have been coded in the get to the point meeting. And then we basically just let the machine do the rest of the work. They tag some of them in the folders, notebooks, and then the processing happening in the back in Reveal, and we then get the score from Brainspace, and then we start really digging in and seeing if we need more evidence. And in the next LP, you have the dashboard, and dashboard actually shows us how we're progressing. Are we on the right? The terms, the phrases we put up in the beginning. Do we actually see those being, highlighted, found in the documents, and so on? So that generated a report for status. If they want it every hour, if they want it every day, if they want it just once a week. So that's what normally happens. Then the bigger cases, the cases that will stay in for years, and they come in and out with new evidence, new data. They just, inject data. We go and look at how are the model finding things, how are they coding, how are we processing it, are we, tacking enough, and so on. We're leading those tasks as well with our project teams, and then making sure that when they go to court or go to the police, that they get the right level of evidence and documentation. Also a practice that is built into the tools these days. So, and then I would say where we really get our fingers more heavily involved is in more, not necessarily bigger cases, but cases which is really legal driven, where you don't have any communication. You just have big contracts, and in those contracts you need to find some specific words which in a legal term is not good words. And there we have now, trained models and building models to get a little bit more sophisticated models in our laboratory. And these cases require a lot of interaction between us and the lawyers. But we are also getting those cases with the more difficult legal words than just simple things. So we see price fixing, and we see intellectual properties, these kind of things coming much more in. So that's interesting. Yeah.
So Reveal has in its platform a model library, and we've got some standard models that anyone can use. It sounds like you've gone well beyond that, and you build models for clients, right? So talk a little bit more about that whole process, your experience with that, what sort of models you've been building.
So that's actually, I would say, you build up a company and you think, oh, we are the greatest in the world, which hopefully you do when you own a company, and then you get your client, and first you need to convince the client that this is really great, and convince that clients to start using and pay for it is the next steps. And then when you really get a good a good feeling that this is right, is when you really work together with a client and they have a real interest in leading you to build that one model that can change that case dramatically. And that is what we're seeing. So we actually see more clients, and we see the clients be really engaged with us, trying to convince their clients to put more data in so we can build, new models for, different kind of things. And that we see, a drive from the client side, and we need that drive, because if they're not buying into it, we don't get enough data, and we cannot train new models. But lately we have seen really specific drive from clients in models that I thought, okay, that will be 10 years from now, but it isn't. It's all it's all doable within the platform. Of course, we need to tweak it a little bit here and there, and we have the best guys. Gary, he's jump on calls with us, helping us out to get the best out of the tools. Is also what we can do. And I would, I've done my own coding in Python and R and SAS back in the time. Yeah, forget it. I'm never gonna spend time on that. Never. I'll just grab the service and then start finding result. And I must say that the already pre-built models, they get a good understanding of what we're looking at, and then you can tweak those. If not, then we build our own ones. And today we have a handful of models running in there, and even clients have more. And I would say, also the simple model we can build within Brainspace, those are really powerful for many cases. So many times we just utilize the front end of the Brainspace, and then we're good to go. And other times, yeah, we go in the back, and then we build some awful good things. Yeah.
What sort of things do you build models to do?
That it all ends up to figure out what's really going on in this data set. Sometimes the more, if you take a price fixing, for example, it's straightforward. But then if for some reason we're not allowed to see communication or something like that, then it's getting more difficult, because then it's legal wording. So we build small model trained models on the specific wording. Then new entity models, because if you have in North Europe, in Scandinavian, we have so many different languages, and the good thing is Norwegian and Danish, you spell the same way, but it not necessarily means the same. So you have variants in the Scandinavian countries. So we need to be fast on training it on different languages. And that's something that we have models for, so in different languages. And then for I would say more optimization of the work. So instead of having 10 lawyers looking through documents, then we let the models decide what they should look for, and then improving. So the unsupervised first, and then the supervised, and then we dig into the language models, and then we really get fast on the evidence. So it's a you can say it's a model for finding the maybe not smoking gun, but pointing at some direction, then to optimize work, being more efficient, and then to understand languages, different languages, phrases, and these kind of things. That's primarily what we build models for.
So you use models from Reveal, you build models of your own, and if I heard correctly, you also work with clients to help them so that they can build models. Did I hear correctly?
That's right. We have we built, when we started up the company, we built the lab and the concept around that one, and it pretty fast became quite clear for us. We need a framework. We need clients to adopt to a framework, because they need to standardize. So the IP guys need to standardize the way they work with digitalization, and also how we use data for forensics. The M&A guys need to figure out how they do it, and the dispute need their way, and also the same with insolvency, and so on and so on. So we created a framework which caters for what they have invested in when it comes to all kind of technology, to try to get more digitalized, and then how we then can do three things: how we can process data, speed up the digital process within the company on the existing components they have, and then build their own IP. Because when you have a consultancy company, you only bill hours, but if you have an IP, you do a little bit more. And that was the reason was to build the legal tech framework to enable the digital journey and make it faster, and then build IP for the lawyers. So in there, we're building their models. We have a frame agreement with them, guarantee them the model works. So we train them, we make sure that they are ready to rock and roll when they just come in. And so that's a part of our legal tech framework, yes.
What has the feedback from clients been like?
They like, of course, they love this, because first of all, we have our own models, and it's a little bit like, oh, that's pretty cool. What does it do? I don't know, but it's our. so these kind of things, they like that. Then you have some of them also like to share. So maybe it can be better if we get it trained. And what do you think, Frank? And these kind of things. So they like the fact that they have this. And one of the latest thing was they were asking us to produce a product for them that they could go to their client. So the client So now they're actually extending their laboratory to the client side in the insurance area. So we will see more lawyers coming in, also starting building their own products on top of the laboratory to get more IP for themselves. Yeah.
So if you then cast your eye to the future, where do you hope to go with all of this, and where do you see the world going with all of this?
I've been working with data for the last 15 years, and we have done machine learning models in structured data for a long, long time. We have also tried. I also tried on unstructured. That was miserable, but we tried and we learned a lot. Now we learned, and I normally say that you're not good at building models if you don't understand the business, because then you're building the wrong model, because you can choose to go so many directions with the algorithms. So I think the world is just, starting. We're just in the beginning. So the way we do the things today will definitely be, done this way, but we'll learn much, much more. And I think one of the things that we are building right now is our academy, because I think training and educating lawyers and lawyers within companies or lawyer in law firms, they need to get trained, because when we raise the knowledge around this, we get more deals, we get more sophisticated cases, and I guarantee you there is sophisticated cases out there with trillion of data that we need to investigate, which we probably struggle with today if we get those. But we see that, and we believe that education, our customer and their customer, is bringing in more sophisticated cases, more sophisticated models, and of course, more business, which is a good thing.
So for the people who participate in your laboratory, in your education, your academy, for the people who participate in your academy, what is their experience? What are they learning?
So first of all, I have to say that the academy is being built. So right now it's pretty much training in classrooms, but they will be digitalized. But I don't know how it is in the US, but in here where we train people, and when we go in, they are surprised. And first of all, everybody gets scared. Do you really get that out of the model? And then they start immediately saying, I'm not going to send any more emails in my entire life, or SMS, or anything, or chat, because you can see everything. And then we need to tell them how we do data collection and how we document that. But that is the feedback. And then they start buying in, especially the younger generation, not younger in terms of 20 years, but 35 up to 50. They are really interested in this because they know this is the future. They know that the client will start asking and demanding that they are getting more sophisticated in the way they approach them and not just billing hours. So I think their interest is high, and the willingness to learn is also high. So good interest, good feedback, and it's I have a big expectation to educate, to the academy, and how that will develop. I think that's going to be interesting to follow. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Frank, I look forward, one, to seeing what sort of models you and your clients are able to build where you go with this. Two, to see how that academy plays out. It sounds very interesting. Thank you for joining us this week. Frank Papsø is a partner at Data Discovery Lab and graciously joining us from his evening in Copenhagen. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Thanks for joining us today, and please join us again next Friday when our guests will be Mary Mack and Kaylee Wallstead of EDRM. Frank, thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. Take care.
You too.
Thanks.